for joining us.
Thank
Can
you
you
for
hear me pretty
inviting
good?
me. Yes, I can.
Okay. Yes. So today the topic is all about going to be talking about elevating your job search. Because we know job search, a lot of people have defined the process of job searching as an act. And the act is different from one client to the other. For the context today, we're going to be talking about job searching in Canada, on how you can elevate the process for you to get the desired results. But before we jump into going all about elevating your job search and process and how to all the process and everything involved in you getting the desired results, we'd like to just have a little bit of background to your journey career wise, have a little bit of story about your journey career wise, where you started, where you are now. Because I
Okay, awesome. Good morning, everyone, and it's great to be here. In terms of my journey career-wise, it has been an eventful one, definitely. It hasn't just been like a straight line. I wouldn't say that I would have known 10 years before that this is where I would be. However, it has been eventful. So I have, in terms of education, I have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and but I figured out maybe towards my graduation that accounting was not the place for me. I I do like accounting and I like numbers. However, I realized it was not a great fit for me, and so while I was leaving school, human resources came top of mind because I consider myself a people person. At least that's what I thought. And then, so I went into human resources. After a couple of failed attempts at a couple of fields, I went into human resources. And before I went into human resources, I got a master's in an MBA with a human resource background and jumped into human resource. Now, human resource is wide, as people know. HR, there's so many different facets of human resources. So, but I was an HR generalist. So I was doing everything from recruitment to performance management to learning and development, employee engagement, employee discipline, all the works. And so from this point of HR, I started to realize the aspects of HR I didn't really like and the aspects that I really liked. Now, one of the aspects that I really liked, amongst others, was recruitment. It fascinated me. So that whole entire journey from when someone submits, or rather when a job description or a management determines that they want to fill a position, all the way to filling that position. So getting candidates in for tests, interviewing process, the hiring process, all of that. And so it fascinated me and I liked that process. Now, as I delved further into recruitment, I started to realize that I didn't really like the quality of resumes or CVs I was getting. And this bothered me. It bothered me so much that I remember back in 2000, 2014, back in 2014, after a round of recruitment, trying to recruit a role and getting a lot of applications, and just seeing how people treated their job search journey. I went on LinkedIn and created a post just on the fly based on how I felt. The post was titled, "Dear applicant, I don't think you really wanted that job." And
uh,
that post went viral, and there was a lot of comments. People spoke about the different parts, about the HR parts perspective or the candidate perspective, and it got me into the world of careers and trying to figure out how to help people get submit better applications, so do their job search journey and take it seriously. And so that got me on LinkedIn, always putting out posts while I maintain my day-to-day work in human resources. But the further I went into careers on the side, the more interested I became. And after we moved to Canada, I still did human resources for a bit, but it got to the point where I decided I wanted to make the switch to fully careers, so field in careers. And so currently I work with Western University as a career coach. And in my role as career coach, I'm supporting university students. So that spans the spectrum of undergrads, graduates, PhDs, professional students, all of the works in whatever stage of their job search journey they are. Everyone needs help. What we realize is that it isn't just students who need help, but whether you're just starting out your career or you're 10 years in or you're 20 years in, people need support. People need to take a step back at certain points to figure out what are they doing right, what do they need to be doing, that sort of thing. And so that's what's led me to my current role as career coach, and that's the support that I give people. I also am involved in workshops, whether at work or even in my personal careers gig, where I'm supporting people with workshops on different aspects of that job search journey. So taking apart each piece, resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn profile, interview preparation, job search strategies, mock interviewing, all of that. So I am supporting students in those different facets, as well as just general designing, helping people design a career that they love.
Interesting. So I know in the explanation, you've talked about the process of job searching. So I'll just like you to delve a little bit on what is the process in Canada as an immigrant, as a student, as someone who's looking at jumping into starting my career in Canada. What is the first thing I should do? What are the steps I should take in building a career?
Okay. All right. So I would say that the first step is probably research. And I almost feel like that's one aspect that a lot of people aren't comfortable doing, but it informs every other aspect. And research is all encompassing, and it's something that you would need through every stage of the journey. So it's a lot of research into the kinds of jobs you're applying to, what the requirements are. Because the way I see a job search journey, starting from the employer's perspective, is the fact that perhaps an employer or the hiring manager has determined they have a need and they want to fill that need, which is what leads them to put together a job description. And the job description is just their ideas of the kinds of things they want that person to do, as well as the kind of person they're looking for. So being conscious of that, doing the research to understand that, okay, if I'm going into this field, these are the kinds of job descriptions I will find. These are the general themes of what employers are looking for this specific role. And then trying to do kind of like a skills analysis, so skills gap analysis to see this is what I have, this is what I probably need to succeed in this sort of role, and then you identify
Yeah.
the gaps. Now that does so that's the first that's why I said research is one aspect that you want to start with. And then of course putting together your resume, your cover letter in Canada, cover letters. I know that especially for folks in Nigeria, even though we are familiar with cover letters, not everyone used it. We would
Yeah.
normally skip through the aspects where they say a cover letter and just like skip over it. But in Canada, it's essential. It's one part of the job search journey that I see people just overlook to say, you know what, I'm not going to apply for a job that needs a cover letter. But a lot of jobs need a cover letter. And so cover letter is an essential part of the job search journey in Canada. If recruiters want you, except they states that you shouldn't submit a cover letter, then you should submit a cover letter. And of course, it is the resume and the cover letter is tied to the recruiter, to each job you're applying to. So you're
Okay.
customizing your resume and as well as your cover letter to each job that you're applying to in Canada. And I hear people say, well, do they read the cover letter? The truth is, some recruiters love the cover letter, and that's the first thing they will look at. They love cover letters, but there are some recruiters that couldn't care less. The problem, however, is that We don't have like a database of the recruiters who like cover letters and don't. And so we want to err on the side of caution where we would always submit a cover letter as well, of course, as our resume. And so from that process is where you hopefully get invited for an interview. And again, that research piece comes in and preparation comes in. I always encourage people to have a mock interview before their interview. And so the interview process comes along, and sometimes it's 1 to 2 interviews, depending on the role, or maybe even three, depending on the role. And then from that interview experience is where you hopefully would get an offer for the job. One piece that Canadians are, I guess, very picky about is the fact that after your interview, up to 24 hours after your interview, you want to send a thank you email. So it's spoken about a lot. I don't know how effective it is, but again, it's just an email. It's best to just send the email, right? So, and then from
Okay.
that, perhaps you get invited or offered, you get a verbal offer as well as a written offer, and that's where negotiations come into play. So, negotiating for the package that suits your needs at that point in time. And so, I guess that's mostly where it ends in that aspect until you get and sign your offer, and then, of course, onboarding processes would kick off.
Okay. Thank you. So going all the way back to resumes, because for
Okay.
most job advertisements, they don't include a while submitting your resume, include a cover letter. So as a
Mhm.
recruiter, you advise them, even if it's not stipulated or stated in the job advertisement, it is advisable you include a cover letter in
Absolutely.
every job, in every job you're applying for in Canada. Yeah, I just hope that.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
except if the vacancy states, some would state, please do not submit a cover letter. And then of course do not submit. Or maybe you're trying to go through that application process and there is nowhere that it states that you should upload a cover letter or copy paste the cover letter, then in those situations, obviously, there's no point in creating a cover letter. However, if there is a space, a portion where a cover letter should be included, then please include a cover letter.
Yeah, okay. And you also mentioned us for every job search, customizing my resume to fit the process, to fit the description. And we know for someone who is in the process of job searching, you are opening tabs on your system, you've opened top to 10 tabs of job applications, and you're just submitting on the go. But as a recruiter, your advising will take our time, tailor every resume to every job advertisement. That's a lot of
So
work.
that's a lot of work. I remember there's someone in Nigeria, I think his name is Arusa or something. He wrote a book titled "Getting a Job is a Job." So yes, it's a lot of work. However, in terms of customizing, yes, you will customize. You do have to customize because at the end of the day, if you think about the fact, again, back to that job description, the recruiter has the job description. So in essence, they already know who they want. You want as much as possible that when they look at your resume, from what they remember of the job description, they can look at your resume and see that this matches as much as possible. The easiest way to customize that is keywords, is including keywords into your resume. So as much as possible, you're adding the keywords. I There are some organizations who use like those who use the ATS application where they would filter using keywords. The computer will filter trying to see
Mhm.
if they can match as many keywords as possible. So for and again, you do not know when you would get that. However, what I would say is that even to the point of if the vacancy states um, as a requirement excellent oral and written communication, and maybe on your resume you have it as excellent verbal and written communication, I would change my verbal to oral. Does it mean the same thing? Yes. Am I trying to improve on the keywords? Yes, absolutely. So it's switching out the keywords to get as many of those keywords. And it's not necessarily putting all the keywords in one spot, but based on how you are then reframing the language in your resume, you can then put in those keywords in certain places to increase your chances of going through that first shortlist by the computer. So it's not a human looking at your resume. The computer is just matching keywords. So you want as much as possible that your resume gets matched based on that. Yes, you mentioned there being like an open tabs of like so many different tabs being open. There's a way that for me, there's a way that I organize my resume folders in order not to get overwhelmed. Because one thing as a recruiter I used to dislike was someone sending in a resume and I see where it's written, um, for instance, Anne Ayinde resume, and then in brackets they put the name of the organization just because they were trying to manage the 1 million resumes on their profile or on their computer, and so they've had to put stuff qualifiers in there to kind of put them apart. So the way that I organize my resume folder is that I have my resume templates in my folder. So if you were to open up my computer folder, I have my resume template, so my general template. And then if maybe I found company A is hiring and I want to apply there, I create a folder for company A and make a copy of my resume and put it in that folder and just rename it
Okay.
Anne Ayinde resume. But because it's in company A's folder, I know that when I'm customizing it, it's inside company A's folder. I also know that when I want to grab it to upload, I'm not making a mistake because I am going to company A's folder to pick the right resume. So that's how I
That's good.
organize it in order for things not to get overwhelming. And then you start to wonder when they invite you for an interview, which resume did I submit for this job? And then you cannot find it. And then you hold on to the wrong resume, and then things just get out of hand. So I always advise to organize your folders so that you can find the resume you submitted for that specific job when the time comes for an interview.
Okay. And still talking about resumes,
Mhm.
a particular one very popular talk or anecdotes going around Canada is a two-page resume country. Even if you
Mm.
have 15 years of experience as an immigrant, you need to compress everything to a two-page resume. How true is the statement?
Okay, so in Nigeria, we all came from the notion of we didn't even call it resumes because most people have in Nigeria is not a resume, it's a CV. Now, CV
Oh,
means your curriculum vitae, but that means course of life. So it's all of your experience all through your life. A CV is different from a resume. What a resume is for a specific job. A resume is always is a document submitted that details relevant experience for a specific job. And if you think about the fact that the job description itself is probably one page, okay, well, maybe some of them are 2 pages. Um, you do not need that much content to fit into your resume for that specific job. And the truth is that the recruiter is not going to read your 20-page CV document because they are only looking for relevance. So when they say your resume should be 2 pages, it immediately says put only relevant information in that document for that employer. And that is
um,
why it would differ by jobs that you're applying to.
okay. So I want us to go over this again because looking at the context, this is Canada, and a lot of people are joining us are immigrants who are about we're in the process of job searching or in the process of transitioning from one job to another, or people who have been in this process, and it is very frustrating as an immigrant in a new country to look for a job. Are you advising as a recruiter that Debola that has over 10 to 15 years of work experience in Nigeria with all my qualifications and all my experience? and my 5-page job resume, applying for a job in Canada, it is advisable I slim it down to all the relevant information as pertaining to job I'm applying for. Because
Okay.
in
Yeah.
most African countries, in our resume, you will have to have our sex, our age, our local government, our date of birth, and all of that in our resume.
Okay. You've unleashed too much right now. But I'm going to start from that last one because that's the one that is giving me a lot of headache. If you're coming to Canada, and I think even in Nigeria, so regardless of your location, you should not have your age, date of birth. What else did you say?
Our hobbies, someone just put
Gender,
our hobbies.
gender, hobbies, local government area, mother's maiden name. All those information should not be on your resume. The truth is, do not give any recruiter an opportunity to discriminate against you. Do not give, because a recruiter is a human being. Are they meant to discriminate against you? Absolutely not. Is it possible that seeing something on your resume might trigger something and lead to discrimination? Yes. So don't give them the opportunity to discriminate against you. Do not. Because the recruiter might be like, I don't know, maybe they've just had a team member who had kids, grandparents compound. All right. So maybe they had a team member who had kids and maybe was always taking time off work because the kids were ill, the kids had issues, the kids had something to do in school and all of that. At the back of their mind, even if they're not going to say it, maybe they've thought in their mind, in their head, oh my goodness, if I were to recruit somebody else, I hope I don't get someone who has kids or someone
Hmm.
maybe who's even married. And then you now go by yourself and put on your resume that you're married and you have kids and you even write your children's name on your resume. That's just an opportunity for them to discriminate against you. And they can look for anything. They don't have to say that that's the reason they discriminated. They will just say you're not fit for the role. So all of that information should not be on your resume. But then coming back to what you said, I know that it's a thing of pride, perhaps in Nigeria, when your resume is growing to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. It's a thing of pride because it's all of your accomplishments. Now, for someone who has as much as maybe 15 or 10 to 15 years of experience or even more, what I would advise them to use is a functional resume. Now, what the functional resume does is it's it's more skills based. So it's saying that based on this job that I am applying to, these are the skills required for the role. And so I'm going to put mini headers of some of the top skills or top areas that I need to cover in my resume, and then build a couple of content or accomplishment statements based on those top skill areas. And then maybe on your second page, you can then put a summary of your 20 years experience to kind of walk through
Mm-hmm.
your 20 years experience, just so that at least it's on there that you have that many. And even in your skill section where you would for or your profile summary, you can put there 20 plus years of experience in this area or this field so that it doesn't get missing. I know it is important because all of that experience counts and organizations are looking for
Yeah.
people with experience. So, yes, you will still reflect your experience, you will still state it, you can still list it at the bottom. But for the purposes of what you're looking for, keep it short and sweet.
Sure.
Itemize only the information that the recruiter needs to know in order to invite you for an interview. The resume does not get you the job, it gets you a chance at the table, at the interview table.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Your resume does not get you a job, your resume gets you an interview. Your performance at an interview is what leads to you getting that job. So get that interview. Let the recruiter see what they need to. Don't let the recruiter look for information on your resume. You can imagine a 5-page resume and you think the recruiter has time to be digging through. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit. digging through pages and pages to look for the relevant information. Don't let the recruiters search. They say in Canada, and I think it's all over the world, it takes about average time it takes for the recruiter to look at your resume. Does anybody have an idea before I spill? Do you
Mm.
have an idea how long it takes? You can put it in the, you can type it up if you think you know how long it takes for the recruiter to look at resumes when they are going through the recruitment process, shortlisting. How long does it take the recruiter to go through resumes? If anybody knows.
5 minutes.
Okay. Pastor Lola, I see you. 30 seconds. Someone, Devala says 5 minutes. Okay. Anybody else? Maybe just one more person that thinks they know. Okay, I see someone else is liking it. So someone is agreeing with the 30 seconds. Okay,
Yeah.
2 likes, I see. They say that it takes a recruiter an average of 6 seconds
Oh
to
my.
go. So you can imagine that it makes sense now. The two-page makes sense. They say 6 seconds.
6 seconds.
And if you think about 2 minutes, no, no, no. If you think about the fact that they have an influx of resumes, that first glance at your resume is going to take them about 6 seconds, and that's when they are sorting into the yes or no pile. It's
Wow.
after they're done with that 6 seconds scanning, 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 scanning. And of course, if they're scanning, they're not reading, they're looking for keywords. So
True.
they're scanning through your resume, 6 seconds. Oh, does it look like, oh, I see this, I see that, I see this. Yes, pile. No pile. And then when they are done, they can now take their yes pile and maybe spend 1 minute or 2 minutes to further
Yeah, okay.
see, take their time to see. But you obviously want your resume to survive that first glance. You want your resume to survive 6 seconds. So if you think about that, they say that the top one third of your resume, the top portion of your resume, is your high real estate. So for my Nigerian gang, that is your VI or your, I don't know what other places are top areas in Nigeria anymore. But that is your high real estate, which means because that's the first place the recruiter's eyes will glance on when they look at your resume. So think about what is on that top one third of your resume. That is the most important thing. That's the most important section. Banana Island, thank you, Lamide. That's the most important section that you need to focus on and make sure the right information is there.
Yeah. Hmm. I don't think we can exhaust resumes within the time slot. So we're moving down to interviews.
Okay.
And I'm looking at a list of questions, and one common question, multiple of questions, fusing it into one is, um, how can I excel interview wise? I feel my African accent will be a
Mm,
factor. Let us put in mind that these are immigrants coming in into Canada.
mm,
I've seen three questions similar to people having this fear of their African accents being
mm,
a determining factor whether they will
mm.
get the job. And I also want to marry that with another question. Uh,
Okay.
is it possible in Canada for you to get a job in the top four firm like KPMG, Accenture, and other clients and other similar organizations? So marrying these two questions, as an immigrant I'm coming in, is it even possible for me to get a job in these top organizations in Canada? And also, with my accent, my African accent being a factor in me getting this job. So as a recruiter, I'm putting a question to you. Have you seen people in immigrants in Africa, in Canada, who are employed in this top organizations?
Okay. All right. So let's start off from the interview question because it all leads to that. It leads to whether you're able to get jobs in these top organizations. Confidence at interviews, it's a big one. And you say you have, at least you speak English. So you're only worried about your accent. At least you speak English. There's so many different immigrants into Canada that they do not have a good command of English. And I guess it also ties into that when organizations say that they're looking for people who have Canadian experience. Their Canadian experience, by that, they're trying to say, can you survive in a Canadian workplace? So the workplace culture and norms, are you able to survive there? And
I'm
so
taking
coming
it
to
back,
interviews,
taking it back, because our understanding of Canadian experiences, do
okay,
you have 3 to 4 years of job experience of working in Canada? Are you are you so are you telling us that we've figured it out all wrong? That a Canadian experience doesn't necessarily mean 3 to 5, 6, 4, 8, 10 years of working in a corporate organization in Canada.
absolutely. To be honest with you, and maybe I should even whisper this one. To be honest with you, Canadian experience is just saying another organization taking a risk on you and survived.
Hmm.
Has another organization been able to employ you and you were able to survive and thrive in that organization? So you spoke English, they understood. They gave you tasks and you understood the task and the requirements and you were able to do it. Those kinds of things is really what Canadian experience is all about. So bringing that back to this question on interviewing and your Nigerian accent, I also have a Nigerian accent. Nigerians have a great command of English naturally, at least most Nigerians. And so when you go into, I mean, you pass IELTS, that is why you are here, right? So when you go into that interview, it is not really about your Nigerian accent. Is are you able to communicate? They're asking you a question, and it goes that back to your preparation for your interview. So how prepared are you for the interview? Have you done your research? Have you looked at there's so many ways for you to prepare for your interview. I mean, looking at the for me, when I prepare for interviews, I go back to the job description and comb through it. I go to the job description line for line and I'm reading what they say they want the person to do. And I'm wondering, have I done this? And I'm taking notes of the aspects of the times when I've done something similar. I go to the skills section, I'm doing the same thing, right? So I'm in
Hmm.
preparation for the interview. You're doing your homework. You're trying to think through your past experiences. You're working on your stories bank. You're you're trying to think through the different kinds of interview questions. So many organizations are moving towards more behavioral based interview questions as well as situational based questions. And so understanding that those are for the behavioral based, they are mostly stories based. So do you have your stories bank prepared? All of those things are the things that prepare you for your interview. And then yeah, that interview sitting at the table with however many people. Your confidence is what will set you apart. Your confidence in what you know, who you are, and the value that you can add to an organization. Because the truth is, even though interviews have largely been bastardized, interviewing is as much the employer looking to see if the candidate is a right fit, as well as the candidate as well looking at the employers to say, are you also a right fit for me? And the employer needs you. That is why they are going through this hiring process, and that is why they will pay you. So if you know that you have the value that you have to offer them, that confidence will is what will set you apart at the interview. Speaking with confidence about your past experience. Again, back to that based interviewing piece. They say that past experience is a great predictor of future experience, which is why companies are using behavioral based interviewing. So that's why you hear questions about, tell me about a time. Can you give an example of a time? Or in your past experience, can you walk us through a period or walk us through a particular situation where this or that happened? Because they're trying to say, have you done it in the past? If you've done it in the past, chances are you can do it again. So it's all of your preparation. Forget your Nigerian accent. You're okay. As long as you can speak English and communicate and you have confidence, your
Hmm.
Nigerian accent should not be that factor. Your confidence will override everything else. everything else during that interview. Your confidence is what sets you apart. Your large chunk of experience that you come with and how you're able to draw from that experience is what you really should prepare for. That's what would prepare you for that interview, and then you're able to excel at the interview.
Hmm, interesting. I'd like you to give us an example of a situational based question and a behavioral based question.
Okay. So for behavioral based question, that's where, like I mentioned, they'll be saying something along the lines of, tell me about the time when you worked on a project. What was your role and how did you ensure that the project was successful? And for behavioral based questions, when they say tell me about the time, a lot of people miss it because that's when they start rambling about, oh, normally when I work on projects, I would use an Excel spreadsheet, I will use my calendar, I'll create timelines. No, they're not saying what do you normally do when you work on projects. They say tell me about the time. So they want you to pick a specific event. So that is where the STARS method of answering into behavioral based questions comes into play. Your situation, your task, your action, and your results. And so that for your situation, that's where you're creating the context to say, well, this was when I worked at the university and I worked in this specific role. And we were asked to work on a major project that was a government project. So you're creating that context for them to understand
Mhm.
the gravity of that example. You're building your context. So that's your situation, your task. What were you required to do? What was expected of you? And so you go deeper into that. And then what actions did you take? So that is where you go into your process on how you achieved that. And of course, you do not want to end it off there without mentioning your results, because of course it's the results that gives credence to the actions you took, right? So once you give them the results, that's when they understand the entire process on how you were successful. We always say, for my organization, we would always add the last bit, which is another S for stars, and the S is like a summary or learnings from that experience.
Yeah.
So that's your behavioral based question. Now your situational based question is, they want you to imagine a situation. And so it would go kind of in the sense of, um, imagine that you worked on a project, you worked on a project or you worked on a task and submitted it, but then realized that you made an error in the project. What would you do? So for this one, they're asking you to imagine a situation. And the reason why this one can be, it sometimes can be more interesting or more involved, because for this one, the interviewer wants to see your thought process. So we also have an
Yeah.
acronym that we use for situational based question, and that's the RACE approach. The R there stands for restating, and so that's where you start by restating the question. So if I were asked that question, imagine you worked on a project where once you were done working on the project, you realized you made some errors, but you had already submitted the report. What would you do? So for me, if I were answering that question, I would then restate the question to say, okay, and for this, for situational base, you can make assumptions because, of course, it's
Yeah.
not a live, it's something that is just an imagination. And so for me, answering that question, I would more be along the lines of, okay, so I'm going to imagine that I was working on maybe perhaps a database, and I was meant to submit this database to my manager who was waiting for the report. And in my bid to meet with the timelines, I had submitted before doing proper assessment or analysis. And then once I was done submitting the report, I then realized that I made an error, which makes the data wrong. So that first part of restating helps you imagine yourself in that situation and say, what do I do? And
Right.
then you start to analyze. And for analyzing it, you're trying to look at both sides. Why is this even a problem? So in analyzing for both sides, you're wondering, okay, so for my end, if I were to go to the manager to say that I made an error, that might be put a damper on my ability to perform on the task, because they might think that my integrity might be questioned in that way, because they might think that I'm not doing my job well. Um, However, if I don't tell them, and then that data is used for decision making processes and ends up being wrong, again, it comes back to my integrity and the quality of my work, but at a later time. On the part of my
Hmm.
manager, if my manager goes ahead with that, so it's just analyzing and seeing all the different sides. Again, the interviewer is trying to see the quality of your thoughts, your thought
Yeah.
process. What are you thinking about? So that's
Hmm.
not where you think internally and then just speak a few words. No, you want to think out loud to say what's on your mind. What do you see? What are the possible scenarios? What are the possible
Yeah.
problems with this? And then once you're done thinking, if you have an experience, a life experience that fits that, you can then use your behavioral based knowledge to bring in that stars approach to go through that experience. But that's optional. But then you also want to then state in terms of what I would do, these are the kinds of this is what I would do, and then you go through the possible actions that you will take.
Hmm.
And then of course ending again with a summary or your learnings. So those are the
Correct.
two, I think, most popular types of interview questions.
Yeah. Still talking about interviews. I know 9 out of 10 interviews. The first question is, can we meet you, or can you tell me about yourself? I just want you to quickly tell us how best can we answer this question. Because if you're telling me to tell me about myself, I will start telling you about my grandparents, how I migrated to Canada, how the process was, how I got my accommodation and things. You're telling me to talk about this. I'm talking about myself. As a recruiter, what are they expecting? What are they looking at? I'm asking you, tell me about yourself. What are the key things a recruiter wants to know with that question?
Okay. The tell me about yourself question is a difficult question because a lot of people do not know how best to answer it. And there's no right or wrong way to
Hmm.
answer a tell me about yourself question. Now, sorry, I'm tearing up. I was coughing, so
Hmm.
I'm fine. Don't worry, I'm fine. Um, in terms of answering your tell me about yourself question, I see a lot of people answer it by reiterating everything in their resume. So almost like a copy and paste of your resume or reading out information on their resume. That's not necessarily what it is because the truth is the recruiter already has your resume. So when they are saying tell me about yourself, they already know something about you, the information you provided. So it's not necessarily that information you want to use to answer the tell me about yourself question. Now, for me, the way I see it, tell me about yourself question is the fact that you've submitted the application, they have your resume, and they're inviting you for an interview. And the moment you attend that interview, whether virtual or in person, is the first time you're seeing, sometimes that you're seeing this recruiter or this interview panel. And they're giving you a blank check with that tell me about yourself question because it is meant to inform how the rest of the interview is going to go, how they would perceive you through
Hmm.
the rest of the interview. Now, in terms of what you will say, it will differ based on the job that you're applying to and based on how you want the interviewer to perceive you. Now, you mentioned talking about grandparents or whatever it is. I've seen situations where I was having a mock interview with a client, and the client was applying to medical school and wanted to become a doctor. And in their tell me about yourself question, they spoke a little bit about their background. Sometimes maybe their growing up years, and then maybe they spoke about their grandparents whom they really loved, who had then had a disease and had passed. And based on that experience, it inspired them to go into medicine. And that is what has fueled their passion for medicine, has helped them stay resilient through the tough times because that situation changed their lives. So again, no hard and fast rule. Some people tell stories in such a way where they're weaving their story around their experiences. If you
Yeah.
think about the start of this interview session, you asked me a similar question. And in
Yeah.
answering that question, I wove a story around my experiences in school, my job experiences, but not just saying I worked in this place, oh, then I moved here, oh, and then I worked in this organization. I didn't need to go into those details. I actually used themes, I built it around themes and what led me to where I am. So it is your story. You own your story. It will differ by recruiter, but depends by organization or by interview. But it depends on the most important things you would want them to know about you. That will that will kind of be on their mind as you go through the
Mhm.
rest of the interview.
Yeah. Interesting. So more like the tell me about yourself. There's really no hard or fast rule about it. You should answer based on the type of job you're applying for and your own personal experience, career wise, and also personal wise, if you can weave both in.
Absolutely. Again, one other thing that we've heard as a theme is that you want to present a well-rounded individual. So not necessarily all about education and careers. There's some people that weave around their extracurricular or I volunteer. Maybe you've seen that the organization is heavy on that volunteering piece or their CSA, right? You want
Yeah,
you if you also do some volunteering, some work in the community, you can highlight those,
sure.
right? So it again depends on what you know is important to the organization and what you have or what you're doing in different phases.
Okay. So, leaving interviews, because I know these are really deep conversations we definitely cannot exhaust. I just have, because I know we're running short of time, and I have few questions I just want us to quickly brush over. Now we're in the digital age, and everyone is on one social platform or the other. So, I have a question that says, do I need to be on LinkedIn to get a job in Canada?
Absolutely, you need to be on LinkedIn to get a job anywhere. LinkedIn, I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn because I've seen it work in so many different ways. Why do you need to be on LinkedIn? It's that networking piece. Networking is huge in Canada, and it can be the difference between you getting a job and or not getting a job. Now, coming from Nigeria, for instance, we always frown at the people who know somebody in an organization, and so they are the ones getting the jobs. And we always say how, oh, this organization, they are always hiring their brothers and their cousins and their sisters,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes the other job seekers feel like, oh my goodness, they have an edge over me, and they frown about it, frown on that kind of situation. In Canada, I would almost say that that kind of situation is celebrated, and that is networking. And so a lot of times when you're applying for jobs, you're applying to the different platforms. So maybe your Indeed, your LinkedIn, Monster, all the other job search platforms. High chances are that someone already has a foot in the door because they know someone who works for that organization.
So this happens. This is not an African thing, a Nigerian thing. It happens. It's a global
Absolutely
thing.
not. Absolutely not. I mean, they say that only about 20% of jobs are posted. So the jobs that you see on Indeed, LinkedIn, all of that, they just form about 20% of the jobs available. The other
Hmm.
80% are hidden. And why are they
Oh,
hidden? It means that maybe as a recruiter in an organization, I want to recruit for a position, but I don't want too much trouble. I don't want to receive 1,000 jobs. And so what I do is I send an email out to to the company, to the colleagues to say, guys, I'm recruiting for this role. If you know anyone, please send their resume to me. Chances are they would get obviously fewer resumes. And they want those ones because again, that's more or less like those people with those resumes already have references within the organization. So the reference check is not even a long story because you would
Hmm.
not submit someone's resume that you do not trust.
So that's the hidden job markets.
It is absolutely the hidden job market. And so some roles are getting filled and they don't even make it to Indeed.
So
However,
how
yes,
can I, as an immigrant, how can I be within the hidden job markets?
that's where networking comes into play. Who knows that you're looking for a job? How many people know you're looking for a job? Are you one of the people that are, I'm looking for a job, oh, but I don't want anyone to know so that they will
So,
not feel like
so
I'm
I
a,
I want us to paint this picture because I know
okay,
networking is another series on its own.
okay.
I'm new in Canada.
Mm-hmm,
I'm just me.
mm-hmm.
How do I and we know the culture here. I can't go knock on my neighbors. I'm looking for a job. How do I build a community? How do I tell people I'm job hunting?
Number one, you go out. Don't just stay in your house. Go out, meet your community, socialize. That's the basic level. Now, taking it higher is, of course, you want to have a LinkedIn profile, obviously, and have your LinkedIn profile highlighting your experiences. I mean, LinkedIn is a topic on its own on building your profile. However, from a personal experience, I I had mentioned earlier that when I was going into career coaching, I what I then did was did some research to see, okay, well, if I want to move into career coaching, I have to determine the the people, the players in the career coaching space. And so I did my research. Obviously, I was also looking for the ones that would pay the most. And so I did my research to kind of see, okay, so there's so many different career coaching and career development roles. And then I looked at some of the vacancies. I found the vacancies, I found the kinds of salaries the way, and I was like, okay, so this one, no, I don't want this, I don't want this. And until I found the ones that I felt, okay, this might be more up my alley. The next thing I did was research that organization, and I found their careers team. So I went on their website, found their careers team, identified one person, and went to look for the person on LinkedIn. I added the person on LinkedIn with a state. I had put in a blog just to introduce myself and send them a request. They accepted my request, and I asked for to have virtual coffee with the person. So coffee chats are pretty common in Canada. So I had virtual coffee with this person, and we set it up. I think it ended up being a phone conversation, and I just explained a little bit about myself. New in Canada, this is my focus, or I'm just
Hmm.
looking to meet people in this space. I didn't say I was looking for a job because no, you do not say that you're looking for a job to someone that you do not know because the person is very likely going to run in the opposite direction. They don't know you. With networking, what you're looking to do first is become known, liked, and trusted.
Um,
That is the aim of networking or that coffee chat.
hmm.
Let them know you, let them like you, let them trust you.
Yeah.
And so I built a rapport with this person. But this person, in so I had introduced myself, said a little bit about my background, and then she also said a little bit about hers, and also started to explain her organization, their team. She walked me through the entire team, as well as the team's plans for the future. She told
And
me, oh,
all this conversation started from you being intentional on LinkedIn and sending a note.
absolutely. I did not know this person. This person is fully Canadian. So it's not even like I was trying to tie into some Nigerian connections. No, no, no. Fully Canadian. And so I spoke to this person and she explained the organization, the structure, more or less explaining the organogram, the different teams, and then explained what the plans were for the future. She had mentioned to me that they were going to be hiring soon. They were looking for because they were trying to do some reorganization. And so I knew that some jobs were going to be posted soon. Now, what did I do after this one conversation with her? I kept in touch with her. Now, not bugging her to just keep disturbing her. It's keeping in touch by stealth. And
Hmm.
so on LinkedIn, if the person would put a post, I might comment on the post just so that they see my name pop up again without me reaching out to them. And then Afterwards, I think I had worked on a certification. When I was done with my certification, I emailed this person to say, oh yeah, I had mentioned I was going to do the certification. I've done it. I passed. She congratulated me. We kept in touch just once in a while, just checking in and saying hi. Until that position came out. I had seen the position I was planning to apply. Even before I applied, the person reached out to me and emailed me to say, oh, those positions are live. I know you
Wow.
talked about applying. And it's funny. I then let them know that I was aware of it and I was going to apply. Once I was done submitting my application, I just sent them a note to say, oh yes, so I applied for this position. And the person said all the best. When I was invited for an interview, the person I let them know that, oh, I have been invited for an interview. End of story. The person replied me and said, well, I wouldn't be a part of the panel, but here are a couple of questions they might ask you, and gave me interview questions for areas of focus. I mean, you name it, on how I should prepare for that interview.
And all of this started from just the
All of this
LinkedIn chat.
started from LinkedIn reaching out, but of course, research leading up to that. So, is
Definitely.
network? Am I a huge proponent of networking? Absolutely,
Hmm.
because it moves the needle for you in just throwing your resume down a black hole.
Yeah.
But now you want to have a foot in the door by knowing someone within that organization that might be able to refer you to a position.
Mhm. Okay. So when I was in the process of my job search, I had a conversation with a recruiter, and a statement she said that has stayed and made a lasting impression on me is someone somewhere will give you a chance.
Mm,
So, and I wanted to look at this context of an immigrant who's been here, schooled, or someone just coming in. Is that statement, is it viable? Is it a statement you take to the bank that someone somewhere will give you a chance? Looking at these are our cultures are wide and different. You're coming into a new community to build a new network, just to start your life all over. As a recruiter, have you seen people give people chances? Have you given someone a chance? Were you given a chance? Because there's looking at my list of questions again, I'm seeing questions of, oh, I've been advised to just go into the medical field. I've been advised to just take on an under the table job. I need to have a Canadian experience. I need to have a Canadian certification. Have you seen? I want you to reassure people and just let us know, is it possible I come into Canada with my Nigerian, my Togolese resume certification? I schooled in Burkina Faso, packed my bags, I'm in Canada, and I'm working in KPMG. I'm working at Accenture. I'm working at TD Bank. I'm working at Canada Life. Is that reality possible?
it is possible. Has someone given me a chance? Absolutely. I remember one of the roles that I been at the interview, and I was super honest. I don't know what me, because honestly, if I were to do it over again, I probably wouldn't have applied for that job, because looking on hindsight, I don't think I was even up to 40% qualified for the role. But I interviewed and I was super honest with them, and they must have seen something. They must have liked something. It ended up being it's a huge organization here in London, and a government organization at that. And they gave me a chance. I mean, if you think about the fact that as well, it's not you're not starting from scratch. Or even if you are, you've got something, you have value. In order for an organization or a recruiter or a hiring manager to see value in you, you have to see value in yourself first. So have you determined that you have value, you carry something, and then that informs your job search experience, informs how you put together your resume, your cover letter, informs how you do at an interview. And of course, yes, someone somewhere will give you a chance eventually, but it goes on to your hard work. What are you doing? Are you just waiting for a chance without doing anything? Are you submitting your applications without including a cover letter and you're looking for a chance? Maybe it might come, maybe it might take a while, but do what you have to do. So play your part. Play your part. And once you play your part, I mean, with God on your side, someone somewhere will definitely give you a chance.
Hmm. It's funny how we're past 1 hour and it feels like we've just been talking for 20 minutes. So I have a question here. How can we, for people are looking at meeting you virtually, or do you have a physical office where people can get in touch with you after,
Yes.
after playing here?
How can people get in touch with me? Um, on Instagram, if they wanted to follow me on Instagram or send me a message on Instagram or send me a message on email. If, for instance, someone wanted to book, because I do career coaching sessions as well as mock interviewing sessions for people. And so you can contact me on Instagram, considering we're all on Instagram at the moment, but then email as well. So my email address would, for this purposes, would be hello@anneainde.com. You can reach me via that email address.
Can you repeat your email address one more time, please?
It's hello@anneainde.com. I'm typing it as well, so it would be in the chat. So that's my email address. That's why I can be reached via that means.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I know because this is a topic we cannot exhaust in 5 hours. This is a topic as evergreen as tomorrow someone somewhere is looking at elevating the job search. In another 20 years, people will still be looking at elevating their job search. Uh, Thank you for your time. We appreciate you. We know you're super busy. And these are wealth of knowledge, wealth of experience that people pay a lot of money to have the sessions. So for you to just come, give us this chance for free, we really do appreciate you. We appreciate your time. And we'll definitely will have part 2, part 3, part 4 of this session. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. Okay, yes.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
You're welcome. You're absolutely
optimizing.
welcome.
Yeah, someone is asking, we can have a topic about optimizing your LinkedIn for jobs. So I'm going to put you on the hot seat and ask you the question right away. Can you please give us another one where we can really talk about optimizing LinkedIn for jobs?
Absolutely. We can have as many sessions as we feel might, based on the topic areas of focus, because yes, I do know that there's so many different aspects to this job search journey. And yes, we can have other sessions.
Thank you so very much. I'll let you go now because I know it's a busy day for you.
No
Thank you
worries.
once again.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
everyone for joining
It was
us.
nice
We
being here.
appreciate your
Thank you.
questions, your interaction. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Bye.